The 2022 Toyota Tundra is debuting this weekend, but before the debut, we're here to talk about everything that we know about this upcoming truck so far. My name is Eric, and this is RevMatchTV. So we're over here on the Motor Bella page, and Motor Bella is an auto show that I believe is produced by or in conjunction with the North American International Auto Show held in Detroit. So here is the page. The new 2022 Toyota Tundra is heading to Motor Bella. So Motor Bella is going to be held in Pontiac, Michigan. And if you want to go see this truck in person, if you are in Michigan, you're going to be able to see it starting on September 21st through September 26th. And there's going to be a presentation, there's going to be a press briefing with all of the information on Tuesday, September 21st. So that's when all the details are going to be launched about this truck. You're actually going to be able to go see it. But we're actually going to be able to see it a little bit earlier than that. But here's an official statement. They're saying, we're excited to show the all-new 2022 Toyota Tundra in person for the first time at Motor Bella. This is the first year they're running this show, by the way. It's outdoors. This truck was redesigned from the ground up to deliver exceptional performance, amazing capability, next-level multimedia, and retain the quality, reliability, and durability for which Toyota trucks are known. So that sounds like a pretty typical type Toyota statement. And we're going to talk about what the architecture of this truck is. But if you want to see it before that, you just need to tune into your TV on Sunday, because there's going to be an unveiling at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And the first ad for the 2022 Toyota Tundra will air Sunday night during the Kansas City Chiefs versus Baltimore Ravens game on NBC. So go tune into that game. If you're in the U.S., I'm not quite sure how you would get it if you're outside the U.S. And that is going to be the official launch of this truck. So you're going to be able to see it. Probably not a lot of specs at that point, but definitely tune in on Sunday. So here's the reason why Toyota is really launching the new Tundra. I think it's about 14 years into it right now, give or take. If you really want to know the reason why Toyota is launching this truck, well, it's been out for 14 years, give or take, right now on this platform. So Toyota really wants to get into these very, very tasty sales numbers here that we're seeing for the domestic trucks. And frankly, they have not been competing with the domestic trucks in sales numbers. If you look at the Q2 share, this is the second quarter of 2021, the Tundra only had a 4% share of the whole pie. For Q2, the winner was the Chevy Silverado. They had 28%, and to date, for the entire year, the Chevy Silverado has sold 291,000 units. You look at the Big Daddy here, year to date, 362,000 for the Ford F-Series, and the Ram pickup is 313,000. So the big three automakers have been dominating the sales right now, and the Tundra is down here at 4% for Q2. It's really not that great. So Toyota really wants a big piece of this pie. So they're doing a lot to this vehicle. Let's take a look at what the engine and transmission combination are going to be next. So if we want some more clues, and I'm going to call these, we're not exactly confirming it yet exactly what the final specs are going to be, but I think we have a very, very good idea. We're just going to cruise down this page here. You can see this new platform, this TNGAF, they're calling the GAF platform here. It is significantly lighter than the outgoing one, at least for the Land Cruiser. It's 200 kilograms lighter. That's about 440 pounds, give or take. They've got a new suspension setup, which we'll talk about in a second too, but what we're talking about right now is the engine. And so we've got this 3.5 liter engine, this twin turbo V6. We'll talk about why the V8 is going away in a second. And in the Land Cruiser, this is making about 415 PS, which is around 420 horsepower, something like that. I don't quite have the exact numbers in front of me. And 650 Newton meters of torque. That's about 479 pound-feet of torque. So this is an engine that has actually been around for a long time. Toyota's been actually using this engine in the Lexus LS. Let me pull up the specs for it here. So this is the 3.5 liter in the Lexus LS. I can't remember exactly how long it's been around in this platform, but it's been several years now. I want to say 5 or 6 years. We're making 416 horsepower, 442 pound-feet of torque. So this is a tried and true engine. Toyota has been using this 3.5 liter variations of this for a long time right now. And this is not a new engine by any means. Toyota is not a company to put in something that is not heavily tested, especially in a vehicle like the Tundra. I think we can pretty much rely on Toyota to put in something that is going to be reliable. It's going to go the extra mile. It's going to go the length. It's going to go probably 1,000,000 miles. If you want to know why Toyota is going with a V6 engine, we'll talk about the V8 in a second. I know people are upset about it. Well, let's just look at the #1 selling pickup in the country. In fact, the #1 selling vehicle in the country for something like 40 years, at least according to Ford. It's the F-150. And how many powertrains does the F-150 have right now? They have got a lot of different powertrains. Ford introduced their EcoBoost 3.5 liter V6 a number of years ago. I think it was 2009, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. So they have had a lot of success with this engine. And of course, they still offer a V8. They offer, I think, 6 engines. We're going to count them up in a second here. So this is the competition. This is who Toyota is competing with. So in this particular trim, in the 3.5 liter EcoBoost, this makes 400 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. And this has a best-in-class tow rating of 14,000 pounds, according to Ford. We've got direct and port injection. And so that's sort of, let's just say this is the benchmark. This is the big heavy hitter. This is who Toyota wants to compete with. But here's the big question. So we know that Toyota, well, we don't know guaranteed, but it's almost certain that Toyota is going to drop the V8. Well, Ford continues with the 5 liter V8. But Ford has actually gotten a lot of sales out of the 2.7 liter and the 3.5 EcoBoost. 5 liter makes 400 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque, so that we can see the 3.5 liter EcoBoost actually is a more torquey engine. It's a more powerful engine, and you can tow more with it. You actually can't tow as much. And I know people still like the V8, but the reality of the situation now is that Ford has had the EcoBoost out for a long time. It has proven to be pretty reliable, generally speaking. Yet there's always exceptions to the rule, but you get better gas mileage and has a higher towing capacity. And gas is getting pretty expensive right now. So this is sort of the benchmark that Toyota has to hit with this. And can they do it? They absolutely can if they want to. The 3.5 liter V6 twin turbo is making over 400 horsepower in the Land Cruiser, and it's making about 479 pound-feet of torque. So that is extremely similar to the 3.5 EcoBoost. Hey, are you surprised? Not really. They're both 3.5 liter engines. This is the class. This is the segment. And what they're saying over here at the drive, a Toyota executive was quoted saying that the Tundra's top powertrain will blow you away by adding that the base engine will be substantially more powerful in terms of horsepower and torque than the current V8. So over at the Toyota webpage, this is the current Tundra. If we scroll down to take a look at mechanical performance, with the engine, we're getting a 5.7 liter aluminum I-Force V8, dual overhead cam. It makes 381 horsepower and 401 pound-feet of torque. So if Toyota gets this up over 400 horsepower and gets us to around 500 pound-feet of torque, yeah, that's going to be substantially more. So I'm a pretty strong believer that the V8 is going to go away and that we are going to get this 3.5 liter engine that is going to be in the base version of the truck, at least initially. So what other engines are we likely to get at launch? So here on the Land Cruiser website, they do have a 3.3 liter twin turbo diesel engine that makes over 200, about a little over 300 horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque. Let me see what that is. 700 newton meters. Okay, that's about 516 pound-feet of torque. So are we going to get this engine? I actually don't think that we are, at least at launch. What I do think we are going to get is a hybrid version because, again, the F-150 offers a hybrid engine. It's called the 3.5 liter Power Boost full hybrid V6 engine. So this is the competition. Here it's making 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque, maximum towing capability of 12,700 pounds. And this is going to be, you're going to just see more and more of this engine at Ford. They're going to be pushing this engine. Again, it gives you more fuel economy. Toyota pretty much has to follow suit. So let's see what engines Toyota has up their sleeve that they could possibly bring to market. What we've got on screen right now is the Lexus RX450 Hybrid, the H. And this is not that exciting looking. I just had this for a test drive a little while ago. I've got a video up on it. Really not a very exciting car, but we need to take a look at the engine in this. So these are the specs for the 2022 RX450H Hybrid. It's called the 2GR FXX. It is 3.5 liters. And it makes 308 horsepower with combined gas and electric, makes 247 pound-feet of torque. So here's the big question. Can Toyota take this 3.5 liter engine, this hybrid engine that is really not very exciting? I drove it recently, 3.5 liters, 308 horsepower. I was only getting mid-20s in the gas mileage. So this is really an older version of the hybrid that they have. The RX450H is a fairly heavy vehicle. Clearly the Tundra is going to be a heavy vehicle too. So in order to compete with Ford, I think they're going to have to come out with a hybrid engine that is a lot more powerful if they sort of want to go with the power boost route where the hybrid is actually the top engine. Is that something that Toyota is going to do, knowing that Toyota has always traditionally focused their hybrids more to be towards fuel economy rather than performance? That's my guess as to what they're going to do. I think the hybrid will be a more economical version, but it remains to be seen if they really want to go toe-to-toe with Ford and their 3.5 liter power boost. You might have seen this already. These images have been floating around for a little while now, but there was a Facebook group, I believe, where someone caught an image of the Tundra completely unveiled. Toyota has so far shown us the TRD Pro version of this, but this does appear to be a different model, perhaps the limited package. Not entirely sure what they're going to call it just yet. But we can see, let's take a closer look at it. We can see this newly designed nose looks quite similar to the TRD Pro. We've got the headlights that sort of go right into the fenders. And then in the rear, we've got this sort of design language that Toyota has been using lately, where you have these fender flares that are kind of, I guess, a little bit pronounced. They are sort of bringing out the width of the fenders. Not quite sure what the size of these wheels are, but this is looking like to be something that you're going to see on a lower trim rather than the TRD Pro. You can tell that because we have chrome. We've got chrome handles and so forth, and I do think this says limited. Looking at it from the rear, you can see that we've got these plastic fender pieces that accent the wheel arches. You can see more of this fender flare type treatment. This is an extended cab here, obviously, with the two doors. And one thing that Toyota has been doing that I don't think Ford is doing is you've got the rear window that opens up. It looks like to be, about a quarter, maybe a third of the entire rear window there. So you can slide that glass back. That is something that I think is a competitive advantage for the Tundra. Now, the rear of the truck looks a little bit odd in my opinion. I mean, the taillights are pretty traditional looking, but at the upper part of the liftgate, it has this interesting cutout, I guess, here that does actually separate it from other trucks. It sort of has an indentation. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this new design language. It's looking pretty butch, pretty American. We've got the massive front grille a la Dodge, a la Ford, a la General Motors. Let me know what you think of this new Tundra look. I've got a really great video on the F-150 Lightning coming up, the fully electric F-150. I've got a lot of specs, a lot of details on it. I got to check it out in person. I got invited by Ford. That's coming up maybe tomorrow. You don't want to miss that. And we are going to talk about the interior, but I do want to talk about the suspension and what we can expect there. Toyota has already shown us the TRD Pro version here, and the most notable thing, of course, is this massive skid plate and this red sway bar, but there's something else people have not been talking about very much. Still at the front of the truck, we have an aluminum knuckle over here. This is this aluminum part over here where the wheel actually affixes to this knuckle. And the reason for going with aluminum is because of weight savings. So this is the TRD Pro. I am wondering out loud if they are going to use an aluminum knuckle for their mainline trucks, let's say the Limited and so forth, or if Toyota is going to go with this aluminum setup. We can see here the upper control arm. This is in fact steel. You can see it's painted, and that's going to be for strength and durability. I think we can definitely expect to see that for the regular mainline trucks, but for the TRD Pro, it's an interesting choice. One other thing that we do get for the TRD Pro is, I don't know if you can see it here, is we are getting these Fox shocks on the TRD Pro. The Fox shocks are an adaptive shock setup so that they have a reservoir which contains a fluid which is electrically charged. It has bits of iron in it, or perhaps some other ferrous material too. So basically when you apply a current to it, you can make the fluid more viscous, you can make it thicker, or you can make it thinner, and this adapts dynamically to the terrain. We're definitely not going to get that on the main line trucks. Let's look at the rear. This is what people have not been talking about too much in the rear, and that is what's missing. Do you see it? Or maybe you don't. It's leaf springs. I don't see any leaf springs here at all. Again, this is the official TRD Pro image from Toyota, and of course we have a solid rear axle, but what we have is a coil spring setup and a suspension damper, a damper over here. It seems like there's no leaf springs at all. Ford has been a big fan of the leaf springs because they say it is good for weight, but the leaf spring technology has been around for many, many, many decades, dating back to I think the 40s, perhaps even earlier than that. Correct me down in the comments. There's nothing new about leaf springs. This is turnip cart technology. It's cheap. That's why manufacturers do it. That's why Ford has been doing it. It's cheap. Don't let them tell you otherwise. It's inexpensive. You can definitely put a large payload in a truck without having leaf springs. It's entirely possible to do. Yeah, there's some people out there that are going to argue with me, but this is the way of the future. It definitely rides better. Probably for the most commercial applications, the most heavy-duty industrial applications, perhaps leaf springs are better, but at least on this class of truck, I think this is what people are looking for. So here's the big question. Is Ford going to give us leaf springs? Are they going to go away with leaf springs and just keep this for the TRD Pro? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm thinking that we are not going to see leaf springs in the main line Tundra anymore. This is the interior. This is not official. This is some spy shot, I think, from a Facebook group. Haven't really been able to track down the exact source of it here, but you can see it is heavily, heavily updated compared to what we saw. What we get right now in the Tundra, it looks like we do have some physical controls, hallelujah, for the heating and ventilation system and also for the infotainment system. We got some pretty big wide vents here in this sort of D-type formation, and then we have a much more modern looking center console with a lot of storage right in the center here. We've got storage right above the head of this water bottle here. We have storage right behind here too that opens up, and we can see the knob here, which is going to be used for controlling like your towing settings and probably some other things too. It might depend on the different model range, but this is a much more refreshed, updated looking interior. This is a big, much needed change because the current interior is looking quite dated. So I think, again, this is not official. I think that's you can expect something like this. I will have that Ford F-150 Lightning video up soon. Please subscribe if you like this kind of content. I'm trying to bring it to you frequently in a digestible, short, quick format so we don't waste each other's time. See you in the next one.